We're good. We're good. We're good. Hello, welcome. This is FMA discussion 152, and this is part 3 of FMA versus FAMA, Filipino American Martial Arts. Okay. And this episode is called Unholy Matrimony. Okay. 2. This is part.
What was that noise?
Echo.
That might have been me.
Oh, not anymore. Oh, okay.
Okay, we're cool.
It's better.
We're cool. All right.
Okay. So again, welcome folks. Episode 152. And again, this is part 3. And the title of this discussion is Unholy Matrimony. And as usual, just like the previous 2 episodes, they will be introducing themselves. And first we'll start with Sifu Dwight Woods.
Dwight Wood, representing Inasano Academy. I'm kidding. I'm not representing anybody but myself. But my background is with Dan Inasano since July of 1983. He's been my primary influence in Filipino martial arts.
Next, we have Guro Mahipal.
Mahipal Lunia. I lead immersion labs. Been practicing martial arts for a few years. That's about it.
And last but not least, who made some promises, never mind, Guru Mark Stewart.
I'm better known as the Jungle VIP, and I'm a practitioner of the human style.
All right, folks, just like the previous episode, we'll have 5 sections. Each one of the guests will start off first, and then the other 2 will come on and give supplementary comments or dialogue as far as the particular topic. And our first topic is going to be migration to the U.S. and back to the Philippines, and we'll be starting out with Sifu Dwight. And sir, what would you like to say regarding this?
So if I remember correctly, this is the portion that is this where Unholy Matrimony, where the title came from?
Correct.
With the yeah. So isn't that an interesting thing, right? If we think in terms of migration into the U.S., the FMA that came it wouldn't even be fair to say that it was a byproduct. FMA came because those people came, and those people are FMA, but it wasn't the art that was coming. The people were coming. Once the people were here, and then the art continued to be trained or practiced, then it became a thing, a different thing, which is probably, if you think about it, the entire theme of what we've been discussing for the past 3 episodes. So the initial migration, the FMA was a consequence of that. But then FMA started to become a separate entity. And then people started to come here with FMA because of FMA, because there were people in this country who were now very interested in FMA. So now you get another group of migration. And that group may have had a different approach, a different intention, right, for bringing the art here. And then as the art grows in popularity, what happens? You get, let's call it the FAMA model, now be returning to the homeland. You see? So that, which I find it fascinating, because, and Mahi is probably the best historian out of all of us, but I'm wondering if that exists in any other area of human endeavor or human activity, where a thing, I can't think of it, and there probably is, where a thing was imported into America, developed in America, and then back to the origin.
Oh, return to its point of origin?
Yeah,
Ah,
you know,
interesting. Yeah.
improved, expanded upon, greatly modified, or what have you. I can't think of anything, but as you guys know, my brain hardly ever operates at 100%. It's definitely not operating at 100% right now.
No, you were
But-
under the wind.
But I you know, we talked about when the names of certain arts were changed because other names had become more popular and were in greater use outside of the Philippines. So now a Filipino art adopts a Filipino American name in order to be promoted or what have you. And that to me is just a fascinating development. But then for me, it brings up the question of, would that have happened organically? Or was that occurrence accelerated with, dare I say, a profit motive?
No, I think I don't think that's out of the realm. I mean, because if you look at the business model that was kind of created here, and I think they adapted, plus there was an in-between stop to Europe, you know, kind of here, Europe, and there. So I think, no, I don't think you're so off.
Did we ever like determine that? Was Europe the intermediate stop, or did it go to the US?
I only say that because I'm using Modernese, and I'm not saying this one for all systems. So I don't want to get misconstrued here or incorrect. But if I look at Modernese, what was told to me versus when I had some of the Modernese people on, Remy came here, kind of created, but then immediately was called over to Europe, started some stuff there. So I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying all systems though kind of went that route, but definitely I'm going to assume a few did.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I imagine that that must have been very attractive, because it's the same way that, you know, when Inosano started doing seminars here in the US, then not almost immediately, but pretty soon after, there was a call to come
to go to Europe,
right? To come to the UK. And then, you know, once you're
the countries followed.
Right, once you're in one part of Europe, you know, it's fairly easy for everybody to come see you. And then at some point, they're going to ask you to come to their country,
Sure.
Right? So,
but Sifu, Steve Grody has said, improved. You just made enemies, Sifu, per Steve
really?
Grody.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, but I know Grody's got my back, so.
Hey, you shouldn't apologize for improving something.
Yeah, you know, I think Guro Dan actually created the model that you see happening now with everywhere. He was the one to start teaching seminars in the US first, and then into Europe and Asia, and so he was that original inspiration for everyone to do the same thing, and that's how I see it.
Can I interject there for a second? Who else besides Inosano was like both avocation and vocation an educator? I don't think there was anybody else but him. He's the only one that was a PE coach, and a history teacher and a driver's ed teacher. So teaching was in his blood. And so when the time came, when there was demand for knowledge, more knowledge about the art, it fell on him to to put together a method for people to start to understand stuff. I've been told that there's a lot of stuff out there that's now being taught that owes its creation to Inasano. Not that it wasn't given to him this way and then he taught it this way. It was given to him like this, and he tried to smooth it out so that then a seminar crowd with 3 different levels of people in attendance all at the same time it would make sense to all those levels.
Let's not confuse pedagogy with fighting, though, right?
Yeah.
And I think both have very valuable pieces, but I think we should keep them separate. So I do agree with you that probably helped push things out, but there are quite a few people who, even though down low, have done significant to do it. But it's Mark's turn. I'll go after Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just saying that it was he created the
Business model.
the model of propagation to make it popular.
Yeah.
On an international level.
Yeah.
That's
That
fair.
was my point. That was my point. So where are we, boys?
If we're gonna switch, if Guru Mark, if you're all set, we'll get input from Guru Mahipal.
Yep.
Okay.
So if I may just take a slightly longer view, because I think it's important that we don't get stuck in a particular time frame and then think of everything coming from that time frame. Even if you just look at 100 years, right? You had the first fishing vessels coming into Hawaii and then going into Alaska. Most of them were Filipinos, number one. Number two, if you look at some of the pirates who ended up in Florida and Mississippi from the 1800s, I'm forgetting the pirate's name right now, but it's part of the Bowie knife traditions. About 50 to 60% of the sailors with the pirates were Filipinos. So you have the influence of Filipino arts going way back, right? But even if you just stick to just 100 years, in about 1930s, and I'm talking about official records, I'm not talking about hearsay, right? 1920s, 1930s, Grandmaster Estelilia of Cabaron, his father first came in, first into Hawaii, and then ended up in Alaska, where he actually started teaching. He did show me photographs, pictures, dated pictures going back to 38, 39, right?
Wow.
Around that period, give or take 2-3 years. You should ask Apo Estelia about it. He'll be more precise. But that was the time period, right? So I would say that the arts were there. Who they were taught to and how they were taught is a different story. It was kept within bloodlines. It was kept within friends and family. But even from that period, say the 30s, going down to some of the schools made it down to Minnesota, right? And then coming down to say about 1963, when Mano Cabales first started, basically opened one of the first schools publicly to everybody. The reason for that was Max Iramanto of Cadena de Mano, right? Max Iramanto. So they basically, you had Cabales and Hiron and Max Iramanto, and the big 3 schools basically started from there, where they openly started teaching non-Filipinos for the very first time. But if you look at some of the first generation students that came to the big 3 schools, well, they were mostly Filipino Americans,
Right.
right? So you already had the first generation of Filipino Americans practicing these arts. And from there, of course, we had the whole West Coast Eskrima nonsense that happened, and that was the beginning of the fragmentation, if you will. So my point is that you have a long history of Filipino arts being here, and in many ways, molding and meshing with different things. Even if you look at Kajikendo, right, as a prime example of things that happened in Hawaii. So you had that meshing and an emergence of a new art in some ways, based on the weapons you could have, the environment you lived in, the laws that you faced. You didn't want to be that Filipino guy chopping off a white guy's head in 1950s. That wouldn't go too well, right? So when you hear some of these stories from the old timers, you begin to see that trend. So the arts were always there. So I don't think we should think that this notion of FMA and even FAMA was not there, because that innovation had already started. I don't even see it as innovation as much as I see it as adaptation, because very specific adaptations that they had to do in order to fight bigger, stronger guys, right?
Yeah.
And then I agree with you. Then there came a point, 80s and 90s, that this whole seminar stuff began. And even with the whole Europe trip, these were initially all the Kabbalah students who had learned portions of the arts, and they were being stationed in Europe. So when they went over to Europe, they started teaching their particular expressions of it. They were not allowed to teach Sarada yet. So they started teaching their expressions of it, and it developed in its own beautiful way, the way I see it, right? It developed in its own way. And then from the 80s, the whole business model began, the sort of the big three who will remain unnamed, and the world domination plan, and that's what happened. You know what I'm talking about. So, and that model essentially now has gone around the world. Now, the reason it's a dominant model is because people don't have time. They just want to pay up a little bit, go to a seminar, do those 24 drills, or 32 Sinavadis, and move on with life and say they've mastered it. Rather than, can you do it? Because there's that shift in how teaching happened, right? So I call it the shift from backyard to Taekwondo programs. And again, nothing against Taekwondo, but you understand what I mean, right? It's very well structured, very franchised, right? So what happens? You move from training for instinctive response, right?
Right.
Into okay, these are the drills. Now, if I have 26 levels, I can still 26 levels in a seminar, I can still go through the drills one after the other. And as far as I go, give you an illusion that you're learning something. But are you really? Have you learned measure? Have you learned timing? And have you learned how to instinctively respond without being caught in style? That's all.
Okay.
Okay. No, and we're going to go on to section 2. So section 2, folks that are watching, American reps become business-minded, and the model back to the Philippines. And Guru Mark will be starting this one.
Yeah, I think I'll just start with what Mahi was saying in regard to, clearly it's been generational changes. And of course, the oldest generation to practice the Filipino martial arts in America would have been closer to the way that they learned it and used it back home, right? Very tight-knit, very family-oriented, and then the tribe would naturally expand because of marriages of maybe of the daughters to Americans, as well as the Filipino Americans that you have, and so on and so forth. And at a certain point, they saw that there was a way to actually make a career from it, okay? And so what better way than to copy some existing models out there in the, I'll just use the term modern, but what I mean by modern would be like the 1970s, let's say. I'm gonna jump ahead to the 1970s. And So again, what you have are these changes, and to bring up Taekwondo again too, that's another interesting point, is that the old school Taekwondo was really hardcore stuff and highly respected. And again, it's that example of generational changes, modernization, and making money out of it, right? those principles, right? And then the seminars came along, and then this and that came along, and you know, I'm kind of losing track here, but what I want to tie it into is that notion of being able to succeed as a career and still promote your culture became very attractive. And so when the Filipinos living in the Philippines that taught Filipino martial arts saw the Americans' success, the Filipino Americans' success in regard to the way they did things, they came over and gave it a try.
Right.
And they adopted the business model. But then what you had happen is the opposite, is that when the new guys came over, Americans already doing FMA became interested in the things that they learned from the new batch. And then the Americans went back to the Philippines to continue to learn more. And it's a really good dynamic, actually. And it's brought us to this situation now through Dean's show, to where we're having chats with folks living in the Philippines and us being here or in Europe. And now we can see that there's some grievances involved. And so we're addressing the grievances. And so it's a part of the continual evolution of things.
Oh, well said.
That's about it for me.
Hopefully these bridges will become even closer and more connected. Next, Guro Mahipal, what would you like to add?
I think, look, I mean, business models, right? I probably am the worst person to talk about it, so I don't know what to say about it. I kind of learned the old way with mostly in backyards, whether it was little Ron, I've mentioned him quite a few times to you guys, and others, and it was not business model. So I know the old way, where it was much more about family, right? It was you eat together, you drink together, you bullshit, and then you fight, right? And that is what I knew, and that is what I know. But I do see this new model, and I do have a bias, and my bias is I just get a knee-jerk reaction around it. So I'm probably not the best person to talk about it. But I agree with Mark that that model came about. I think it has its place, because it allows people to sample things, right? And we kind of in the West have a luxury where we're able to sample this entire smorgasbord of things and say, okay, I might like this or I might not like this, and then pursue that. But in the old days, or some of the old ways, there's no question of sampling. You were born into something, or you ran into something, and that was it. And then a bond was formed. So there's this huge difference as well between in the business model. When we think about the business model, it becomes a business transaction. And in the old way, it was, sangria, blood. Yeah. So, yeah.
No. Sifu Dwight, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people realize that nobody is being condescended towards Taekwondo when we say the Taekwondo model.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's at times a euphemism, but it is also sometimes a thing of admiration, because, well, they took rough and tumble and turned it into a thing that soccer moms became, interested in, right? So, but isn't it interesting that old school Taekwondo was rough and tumble?
Hell yeah.
It's like, oh, so you're saying old school anything was rough and tumble. So then everybody, so it's like everybody went through some kind of transformation for whatever reason. What I find interesting about the Taekwondo model is that a lot of the most dedicated people, the people who are most interested in the art, are the people invited into the Black Belt Club. And I think we've talked about this before. Imagine if within your FMA or FAMA group, you have that insiders club where the old school stuff is preserved. You see? You remember when we talked about inner and outer Badui, I think, right? We were talking about.
Yeah.
See, because I am a little bit obsessed with the idea of teaching hardcore martial art with integrity, teaching hardcore martial art without ever watering it down and throwing 64 drills at people because you want to be able to string them along and have them pay, keep paying over a 6-year period for something that they could learn in 6 months. Right? I've always been intrigued by how do you, because we know that the more you train, as long as there's nothing wrong with the instructor or the student, the more you train, the better you get. So even if it is possible to get the art in 6 months, what's wrong with somebody continuing to train for 6 years?
Nothing wrong, but what I'm trying to say is that they're two different engines. See, when the way I think about old school, why are you training? You're not training for anything other than the survival of you, your family, and your clan, so to speak. So
yeah,
expediency mattered, right?
Yes.
And being able to go at it mattered, right?
Yes.
Whereas with the business model, the goal is not whether you can fight. The goal is, can I retain you as a student?
Right. But the goal of the Insiders Club is, can you fight? You see? So you have that within your school, you have that Insiders Club that preserves the art. The rest of it is there recreationally, and there's nothing wrong with recreation. And the truth is, more people are interested. Are more people interested in entertainment than are interested in education?
Absolutely.
Right. You see, so that's a reality. So now, if we want to be successful in the real world, then we have to accept that kind of thing. So now it goes back to the idea of, okay, how do I be successful but maintain integrity? I say it's within the Insiders Club. I say when you have a vibrant Insiders Club where you can, I'll use cliches, where you can teach the real stuff. I think you go to bed happier at night, knowing that you are doing that, as well as providing recreation and edutainment for a larger group of people. And that's all I got to say about that.
No, I think that's fair.
I'm talking and breathing through my mouth.
No. We appreciate the on. For those who are watching, Sifu Dwight was under the weather, but we're so glad that he could still join us tonight. Section 3, offspring and geographic context. So Guro Mahipal is starting this one.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll continue with what I was talking about, this kind of this 100-year arc, right? You had very specific adaptations that emerge, and look at the first generation of the people who were studying it. Not everyone was 5'2". Not everyone was 120 pounds soaking wet. So now you start having these fighting machines who are built very differently. They're going to move differently to begin with. And many of them already came with training in other arts, be it boxing or goju or kajukenbo or whatever it might be. We started to see this emergence of these new offshoots where they might have learned a pure system. And by a pure system, what I mean is in a very structured way that this is how it's gone on for generations and this is what you do. Right. But then that personal expression was their personal expression. You know, some guys like to get hit. They'll say, okay, hit me and then I'll take your head off. And some guys didn't want to be touched. They're like, okay, I don't want you to even touch me and I'm going to learn how to move to avoid that. So you start to see these innovations emerge in very different ways all across the country. Secondly, how do I say this? Some people jumped the gun from learning an art to jumping into a business model. So even when they did not complete, say, basic or advanced training, they said, hey, we're going to go out and start teaching. Now, what happens? That was their base, and they made that the whole art in some cases. And then you see the emergence of a lot of, oh, this is my family style. I just didn't talk about it until now, after I did 4 years of training in this school, right? So, oh, that would never happen. No. So you have that happen as well. And then you had a lot of people who, for various reasons, and usually to pay for college, enrolled in the U.S. Armed Forces. And I'm talking about the Filipinos, the Filipino Americans, the first and second generation. They learned a few things. They went to Europe. They're posted in Europe, posted here, posted there. They started spreading their particular art, their particular expressions, tying in with clubs. And that was the beginning of the offsprings in some ways as to how these arts emerged. And of course, you have the whole Inasanto blend. I won't talk about it. You have two guys with JKD and Kali background. I'll let them speak about it. But that's what I see. And I don't think of that as a bad thing, right? It is a thing. That's about it. It comes with its pros and it comes with its baggages. But I think when we don't acknowledge the context in which this was born or how it came to be, and we create and make fake history, I think we do disservice to everybody. That's about it.
No, thank you. Well said. Guru, Sifu Dwight, anything you'd like to add to this?
At some point, I'm gonna need somebody to tell me what the Inasano blend is.
Oh, we went through this. Oh.
You bring that again now. Let's not go there.
Right. I mean, because every time I hear that, I go, man, I feel like I'm missing out on something. Right. I mean, I'll tell you what.
I'll take those words back.
No.
Let's not get stuck in that.
No, because we all know the story of him having trained with over 30 something different instructors, right? And the only thing that I can remember there being a name assigned to it was the 7 sources. Mark, are you familiar with this? The 7 sources of Inasano's long and short.
No, not familiar.
Did you ever heard of that? Yeah.
I remember. I remember because you shared this with me.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. So that's the only thing that that I know of where like his name attached to it is valid because like he would explain to us, the technique comes from Doce Paris, but the way we're getting into it comes from, you know, Villabril Largusa, or, you know, and then we were doing it in conjunction with something from Serrata or what have you. I'm making all of that up. But that was it. And what was interesting is that of those 7 sources, one source was called X Factor. And X Factor, as he explained it, was a bunch of guys who didn't want their names out there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. And so I always thought that was that. So I'm just teasing, you know, every time when I hear in a Sano Lacoste system or in a Sano blend or what have you, I'm like, damn, I missed that. I missed that lesson again.
That's what, you know, just to give like some historical perspective on that, when I first got in, that's how it was brought across to us. Like far as categorization or nomenclature, it was construed as, okay, you were learning Dana Sound Blend. You know, so I don't know if it's something they kind of just for sake of just deeming it something, but that's how it was always relayed to us. And I'm speaking kind of Northeast. I can't say that for other geographic areas in the States. But.
Yeah, but see, again, right? If you start being in, look, if people started requesting that I come teach seminars at their place every weekend, right? 48 weekends out of the year. Guess what I'm going to be forced to do? I'm going to be forced to organize my material in some form or fashion.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah, we talked about this before.
Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy, you know?
Yeah, so let me bring this back for a minute, right? My point here was offsprings, and let's not get stuck on a word. So just like you said, you know, you're teaching 48 weeks, you're going to have a structure, give it whatever name you want, whatever makes you feel good. But that when we think about Guru Inasanto, that was a big major influence in a very particular offspring coming out, right? And from that, many different flowers come out. That's the point. So if there's a better term, I'll use that. But that's the focus, right? So this is what happened with the offsprings.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay.
Man, I feel like I stuck into a landmine there.
No.
No.
I'm just saying that, you know, but Dean is right. Dean is right. I mean, you're correct too. It was packaged that way, you know, like it had to be identified so that people could I don't know if we should say it, to market it or what have you. But think back to,
you're right, marketing.
Think back to episode 1.
So you have to create a flyer.
Yeah,
you know?
but think back to episode 1 when Mahi said, you know, well, it was family and clan, right? It was family and clan, not marketing, not packaging. It was out of necessity. You see? So I just find it interesting that out of necessity, you organize in order to be able to spread it. But then it starts to lose its essential quality of being vital. You see? And it starts to become just whatever it is that you want to call it. And that's all I got to say about that.
All right. And last but not least, Guru Mark, what would you like to add to this?
Well, I think it's a good opportunity for me to talk about Ted Lukai Lukai a little bit. What he did was he taught his background Filipino martial arts, which were Leo Jaron's Largo Mano and Cabala's Serrada Escrima and Bulabrella Rusicali. Those were the 3 arts that he taught separately to us as a part of his curriculum, but they were taught separately. Then what he called Lukai Lukai Kali would have been his combination of those 3 things, okay? And then he had a 3rd method of teaching, which was just a progressive approach, which basically was semi-compliant and non-compliant training / sparring. And yeah, I'm not sure if many people are aware of that, but that is an offspring that has been a real effective offspring, in my opinion. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of the way that he put things together in that fashion.
I wasn't.
But again, okay, so what I have my notes here is that I find some interesting offspring as well. And I just wrote down like 4 different names here. And these guys, in my opinion, are the ones that tried to get back to the martial part of martial art, okay, in the Filipino martial arts and or Filipino American martial arts. And these guys actually, they don't even call what they do Filipino martial arts at all. So you have someone like James Keating, you have like Tom Sotis in Amok, you have Libre knife fighting, and you have someone like Hackheim, right? And all those people definitely are inspired from Filipino martial arts to varying degrees, and but they've returned to a more combative approach and a simpler approach, and tried to get, in some ways, divorced from what it had become out there in the world, and that I see as an important offspring as well.
You know what? You ended this brilliantly. You led us into section 4, which is divorce. So that was a great closing statement.
Yeah, that was very slick.
Yeah, I don't know if you did that on purpose, Mark.
Oh yeah, you know how he rolls.
No, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, I learned from Mahipal. Mahipal's my mentor.
Well, that was a good closing statement. So section 4, divorce, politics, separation, yada yada, etc. Sifu Dwight, you were leading this one.
No, I wasn't. Mark did. We can reverse it, but I definitely have you as first. For divorce?
Yeah, we're going in order. You started out first.
Mark.
So that was the order. But you want Guru Mahipal to go first.
Well, I'm the expert. I'm the one who's married 4 times.
Mark is the expert. And is it just me, or has anybody else noticed that Mark's presentation skills have improved, right, exponentially since hanging out more with I mean, really, right? That was so impressive. I didn't even realize that I was supposed to go first on divorce. I heard you use the word, and I'm like, Mark, what a cool segue, right?
He led you right into it perfectly.
He set me up, right? Divorce, gosh. Well, see, now here's the thing, right? So Mark just mentioned those 4 systems. Don't you think some people would see that as divorce as opposed to offspring?
I can comment on Mark being a trainer in them, and without getting too deep politically and all that, the latter is divorce is absolutely more appropriate because I'm not wanting to be affiliated with the whole MMA community and all that. So I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. Then yeah. I am not sure why we picked me to start this one out, because
just because how the order went, and that's how I put your name, and nobody
questioned
correct in that.
I must have been half asleep. Because, you know, again, like I talked about in the previous section about staying connected to the root of things with integrity. That's not the language of divorce. You know, that actually is an attempt to stay married to what it is that that you do. So I imagine that the people who divorce themselves and take it, actually, I heard somebody else refer to that that idea in a different context today, but it's like removing yourself from the original because you've become, for whatever reason, you're unhappy in some shape or form with the original, and so you have to remove yourself from it. But then I think that people who understand, they can look at you and see what your origin is or what your connection is. So I think it's probably just a personal thing for me, being somebody who doesn't believe in like literal divorce, right? Because I think that you should take your time and make your choices very, very carefully and not rush into things the way Mark Stewart might.
I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth. I always waited too damn long.
No comment.
No, but you know, in all seriousness, right? You know, sometimes I think it's like a lot of things in life. People can have very, very good reasons for divorcing themselves from their original source. I mean, we all know stories of people who became so disenchanted with their organization, with the leader of their organization, or what have you. And so for very good reason, they divorce themselves from that entity. But then on the other hand, there are people who divorce themselves because they're like, well, I could make more money if I'm not tied to such and such. So let me just, you know, break off and go do my own thing. So like so many other things in out there in the martial art world, it's like you got to check people out and go, okay, well, what's the lineage? Let me do the research and find out if this is somebody that I really should be listening to, right? We see it in the JKD world way too much. And over the past 3 conversations with you guys, I've come to realize that, I mean, look, just 5 minutes ago, when Mark said about Guro Ted Lukai Lukai, right? Lukai Lukai Kali, I remember, right, him introducing himself at the start of the videos, right? And it was representing Kali JKD, you know? So over the past 3 conversations, I've come to appreciate it even more, just how much the 2 families are related. Even if we talk about them separately, the issues that you have in the group, in the family over here, are the same issues that we have in the family over here. So even if we look at it separately, and this divorce thing, a lot of times it, I don't know if way too often, but a lot of times it's all personality conflict and desire to make more money for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely selfless reasons a lot of times involved. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Guru Mahipal, what would you like to add?
I think it's natural sometimes. I think not everybody that you meet and not everybody that you dance with is the dance partner for the rest of your life in some ways. right? For various reasons. What I have seen usually comes down to ego, comes down to paper, and paper being held over somebody's head, whether to promote them or not promote them, money. And when a charismatic leader dies, as to who succeeds him, who's
good point.
who's the one true inheritor, right? And that then you end up having people say, okay, he studied at this stage of his development. He was the last student, so the last student's got to be the best one, or the first student's the best one. I mean, we find this in all arts. I'm sure JKD has that too, right?
Yeah.
That you basically have everyone saying that, oh, we are the only ones who have the one true representation. And I think somewhere in their heart, they truly believe it, right? I think some of them truly believe it, and some of them are just using it as a really good marketing ploy to get a particular point of view across. So this divorce, I see it much more like a kid growing up, right? It's not always going to be around with the parents. Some have good relationships with the parents and or with the partner, and some don't. And then they just disown everything about where they come from. So that is that. I think the damage happens when we fail to acknowledge our roots, when we fail to acknowledge where we come from and make up fake histories. I think that's where a lot of trouble begins. So we also see that specifically with the FMA and FAMA community. You've had a lot of people who were American born, American trained, some of them not even Filipino, who developed a very, very, very high level of skill, right? And whether it's ego that says, okay, I won't go check something else out, what is my roots, or whether they don't have a need to, and that separation has happened. But if you see the movement, hey, this is FMA. There's no mistaking. It's taken its own shape. It's taken its own particular expression. But movement is movement. You can recognize it. So I think I appreciate trying to stay close to the roots. I appreciate the loyalty. I do. I really do. But at the same time, if you have to look at what happened, sometimes it's a natural progression. Some kids are nice and some kids are assholes, and in some cases the father wants to kick the kid out, right? And in some cases the kid thinks he's better than the dad. And it's just natural. I don't think our arts or any of the arts that we train in is any different. It's just life, natural.
Yeah.
I like what you brought up about, God, if the head person dies or whatever, and then the fragmentation starts to really kind of happen, then the egos and who had more tenure or who was yada yada. So I thought that was a good point.
I remember Guru Ron telling me this one story, if I may. He said when Mano Angel was alive, everyone knew who was the lion. And everybody was rats. When Angel walked in, everyone scattered around. Nobody said a word. And yet after he died, everyone's trying to be a lion. But not everybody is a lion. All right. You should, when you get Guru on, you should ask him. He's way.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping he comes on for July. And
Hey, Mahi,
the
do you think it's appropriate for you to mention that recent correspondence with Guro Ron about him talking about the term FMA and how in the Philippines, I mean, there is no FMA. That it's basically they refer to what they do as their style, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Guru Ron did mention that, and he's right. I mean, even if you think about the term FMA, I think it was Mano Maxirimanto when prior to starting of the West Coast Eskrima Society, everyone was doing their thing, their family thing, or their fighting. but they were trying to bring the community together. They said, we need an umbrella, much like karate has an umbrella, taekwondo has an umbrella. We need an umbrella under which all these different styles can coexist. And Mano Max was, well, forgotten genius in so many ways, right? Was truly instrumental in trying to bring the initial big three and some of the others together. And Apo Estelia was quite influential when there were splits between the big three. He was the man who kind of brought, for example, Hiron and Angel back together. So back in the day, we just did the fighting. They didn't classify it as FMA, just like also Guru Ron had mentioned. You guys should go follow his posts if you truly want to peek into old school Eskrima and old school ethics. It's a treasure, as I've told you, it's a living treasure. So you shouldn't miss a chance if you can to go work with him or study with him.
Guru Mark, did you have anything you wanted to add?
About my favorite subject, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm going to go back to something that I think it was Dwight or Mahi was talking about. But I see this disturbing trend nowadays with the younger generation of martial arts instructors who have websites and online training and all the whole package, right?
Yeah.
And they make no reference to their background whatsoever. There is no lineage to be even discussed. And I guess I'm just too old school. I can't wrap my mind around that principle. Anyway, so that's my pet peeve anyway. So, but yeah, I see the divorce thing too for a lot of people. As we've all mentioned, there's many reasons behind it, just human factors, right? And but I see a major one as the difference between the recreational model and the martial model, or just learn how to survive and fight and that model. And I think a lot of the divorce that I've seen is based on the fact that people just wanted more practical training and just kind of want to get to the heart of things.
Yeah. No, I think there's some valid reasons, and some others, whether they were selfless or whatever,
Yeah, some is just branding.
Ones that were good intention.
Yeah, some is just they don't want to be told what to do anymore. They want to be the boss.
Yeah, no. I mean, right. Some of it's good intentions, and some of it's, well, we'll leave it at that. Section 5, reconcile. So building bridges and all that, and we have Guru Mark. You're leading this one.
Yeah, I'll give you credit on this, Dean. I think your show, is the perfect bridge for reconciliation. I don't know if reconciliation is too strong of a word, but how can I say it? At least I think we're getting to know each other better, and there can't be reconciliation for everyone, but I think what we find through some of these discussions and exchange with people on your group is that we certainly have more common denominators than the bullshit points that
of course,
seem to separate us.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely seen that. Like, it's funny, when I first started doing it, like, I had no idea, that there were things that would come kind of indirectly, what I mean, besides actually talking to people. Like, there would be people that would train together via online seminars and all that. I mean, obviously COVID had a big part in that too, but much to your point though, I've definitely seen more communication, like, with different organizations and what have you. And I mean, hopefully that'll continue, you know what I mean? I hope so,
Yeah, and and you see the continuous cross-pollination. People from Europe and America still go to the Philippines to train. People from the Philippines come to the US to teach and to train, and that exchange is going, and it's going to continue to go.
I hope, much to your point, I hope it does still, you know, I do. Guro Mahipal, what would you like to add to that?
I'll say two things. Let's not forget we are a martial art, right? Martial means to fight, so that fighting is important. So let's fight, but let's fight the good fight, right? And I think that whether you like it or not, that fight is a relationship. And that which you fight shapes you. So guys, come fight us against the FMA and be shaped by it. We want that. And guys, let's go fight FMA. And let's do that. Let's be shaped by that, because that's martial arts. We are bullshitting. That's number one, right? Right. Number two, just like Mark, I think that cross-pollination is important. I think it will continue. I think the American teaching model has become the standard. So whether you like it or not, it has already cross-pollinated, right? And then in many ways, some of the old school methods are coming out into the open here in the West. So that has also found new grounds for it to flourish, right? So it's all good. So I think building bridges, I think we think if we fight, we are actually separating ourselves, but in reality, you're being defined by it. So that's all I got to say.
No, thank you. Last but not least, Sifu Dwight, what would you like to add?
Have you noticed how, not catchphrases, but certain words crop up almost every time that we talk, right? So commonality is a word that, if we were to check the transcript of the past 3 conversations, I guarantee you the word commonality has shown up, right? Because even like Mahi's saying, we are talking about fighting. Recently, we had a whole JKD discussion about the art versus the philosophy and what have you. Martial is about fighting, martial art, right? But what Mahi just talked about there is martial philosophy. Fight the good fight. That's not just the physical aspect of it, you know, that's the entire human aspect of it, which is therefore part of the philosophy as well. So I think that the more we struggle to compete, right, the more you come to realize that what's the point of this? The biggest competition is always going to be you. And so we all have to learn to master that, to master ourselves, right? And sometimes you know what it takes to really start to appreciate whether or not you've mastered yourself, or what it takes to master yourself, is to get your ass whooped. That's right. That's what it takes. You see. So now I'm going to tie that back into the whole thing about the insider club. The insider club at your school is going to be people who can whoop ass, can get their asses whooped, and be compadres at the end of class. You know what I'm saying? So maybe during in the moment there's antagonism or whatever you want to call it, but then there's reconciliation before you turn the lights out.
Amen.
I like
That's
that.
all I gotta say about that.
No. Folks, that was our the last section there. And all that, and I appreciate it.
Steve Brody didn't give us a surprise X Factor segment.
I will double check right now on his comments, but thus far I am not seeing.
He's letting us off easy because he knows that I've been.
Yeah, but you know what happened though. I'm gonna get a phone call over the weekend, and I will get, I will get some feedback, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure
his popcorn got cold, you know?
so you know what, the fact that the popcorn mic got, got a little chilly, that could upset him. You know what I mean? Maybe not to me.
Yeah.
So funny, I was talking to him just this afternoon. We had a really fun conversation.
You and Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, no kid. Oh yeah, no kidding. Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I think I really like him. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Oh, come on, Sifu Dwight. It was so much fun when you two were on. Oh, come on. That was such a good episode. When you two were on, when you and him were on, that was a good episode. Come on.
I don't know. Can he flow?
Can he flow? But the best part is when you mentioned how you liked, when you first saw his work, his DVDs and all that, and he was like, Dwight, could you say that?
Yeah.
That was so funny.
Well, because see, he's a perfect example of organizational skill, right? You take what he put and he just seemed to do it just like this, not from notes off camera or whatever. It's just this. And that's somebody who is fully integrated. That's somebody who has become the art, you see? And at that level, there's none of this, pitiful bickering back and forth about, oh, who got it right and who got it wrong or whatever. It's can you do it? Can you do it? And I think that's what's needed more and more in the martial world. People showing, so stop talking about and pointing fingers or whatever. Show us what you do and have the guts to show us what you do and then stand the critique.
No, that's so well said. That's what really bothers me. It's been pretty cleaned up as of late, really has. But there was a period of time, I want to say maybe a month, 3 weeks, about a month ago or so, where things were getting pretty rocky in FMA discussion. Just a lot of, and funny, if the people that are doing that, generally speaking, you don't see videos for them. But man, they're the first ones that,
Yep.
It's just such a weird dynamic.
the other thing I've noticed too, I think I've noticed myself, I'm starting to get a little bit ornery now, and it's the whole COVID thing, man. I think a lot of people are having mental health problems right now.
No, and I don't disagree with that. It's been a tough situation, but I think now, hopefully, it looks like we're coming out of it. I hope. I mean,
Well, I can now speak about that empirically. Let me tell you.
You had it?
Yeah. I tested positive on Monday.
Yeah, I heard you say that. I didn't know if you were just
we thought you were just
Yeah. I said I didn't know you were serious or you were kidding. I wasn't sure.
That's same here.
Yeah. I tested positive on Monday, right? So really, I should be doing this call, like this.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Mahipal said, I thought you were joking. I didn't know you were serious. So you got tested Monday, confirmed Monday.
I got
and so
I got results on Tuesday.
So Tuesday, Wednesday were kind of bad, really bad?
No. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I woke up last Sunday. I go to the park, I work out, I go to Publix, I stock up for the week. I'm getting ready to go do my Sunday group at 9:30. And I'm like, Dwight, you're pushing it. So I call the guys and I go, look, I'm gonna have to beg off this. And they're like, cool. So I went back to sleep. At 12:30, I wake up and I'm like, wow, I'm good. All I needed was 3 more hours of sleep. right? But then at 2:30 or so, the chills hit. And I was like, whoa. They say just, yeah. So I started to feel really bad. So I went back to bed. I had already scheduled the test for 7:30 Monday morning. So I went back to bed. I must have been in bed a total of like 15 hours, right? Woke up Monday, felt fine, went and got tested, got the results on Tuesday. Every day since I got tested has been improvement. Every day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, good.
Right?
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it.
I mean, well, thank you.
Oh, Steve did message.
Uh-oh.
Wait, keep talking about me, making me blush.
Okay, let me talk about Steve. Last time I was in America and taught my annual seminar in Chinatown with the boys down there. I had Steve come in and teach a segment, and he did. It was great. I loved seeing him, and then we had a Mark Stewart Day at the Martial Arts Museum, right? And so Steve was one of the dudes that came there and spoke, briefly up on stage about how I was the best thing since hot buttered popcorn. So thanks, Steve.
Nice.
There you go.
I can't wait. He's on the list I want to train with. I am going to make it out to Los Angeles soon because I need to. I really like his knife program and all that. The cognitive knife program, I think there's just some phenomenal stuff in there, and so I need to touch hands with that man. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to and I like you guys check that out. I think it was really well put together and all that. His program, there's a 2-section program, cognitive knife.
I haven't seen.
No, you guys.
No.
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 Yeah, I'll share
Steve,
my.
you gotta advertise your stuff more.
I spoke to him this afternoon, and the conversation began with pedagogy and epistemology of combat. So I had a fun conversation. And many more to come.
But this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad we made these 3 episodes happen. You guys, I really appreciate it.
Can I just say one thing, Dean, before you close?
Absolutely, sure.
So on FMA and FAMA, the 2 people you should absolutely talk to, right?
Okay.
Because they were a lot closer to this than I ever can be.
Okay.
Apo Scalia, and both Chris and I can put you in touch with him.
I'm God, I'd love to get him on. Yeah.
Okay. Let us
Chris,
know, because both Chris and I have the unpublished copy of his manual that we are supposed to hold on while he's alive. Okay.
So when are you both gonna be talking to him, or is Chris? Not that it matters. I'm just curious.
Chris is a lot closer. Okay. Have Chris talk to him.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And if Chris is not able to get, I will. Okay. And the second is Guru Ron Saturno, because he was in the pit, man. He was in the pit there.
Yeah.
He knows the underbelly of the whole thing. So talk to him. And also he did a very unpopular thing, which is came back to Philippines with me to look for the roots of Sarada. Okay.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. So talk to him, because he's these 2 guys will give you a very, very different timeline and a very different true felt experience about between these 2 worlds.
In fact, so if they both agree, they are absolutely in for July. They're absolutely in. So I'm hoping the way Chris left it with me, I think he was going to try to contact him this week.
We already spoke to Apo. So Apo just means grandfather. Okay, so everybody just calls him Apo.
Remember we did a group text. So and he said he seen.
Yeah, he'll do it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna, but absolutely both of them, if they're willing to come in July, it's done deal, absolutely both of them. And all that, matter of
And then
fact,
one other thing, when you talk to Uncle Jim, Jim Keating, when you talk
Yeah.
to Jim, ask him about the whole point where what took 6 months, why it became 6 years. He was part of that group.
okay, so I'm sorry, again, so 6 months,
You know, the arts that could have taken 6 months to learn, why and who made the changes to teach it in 6 years.
oh, we could be learned in 6 months, why to 6 years, okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's coming on this month.
Yeah, you'll have a blast, man.
James Keating. Yeah, as a matter of fact, reminds me I gotta touch base with him to see. And then
Yeah, let me know if I can help
if Chris
with
yeah,
Uncle
if
Jim.
Chris
Let me
can
know.
get a hold to see here. You know, if either you or Chris can get a hold of him, I'll do whatever I can to squeeze him in this month. I mean, I'll make it happen. You know,
Yeah, and even listen, even if you got to drop me and put Apple there, do it, because he has a lot more insight and a lot richer history.
you know, it's funny. I told Chris, and you're more than welcome too. I told Chris to come on the show with him. You know, I don't care. So if you want to join those two,
yeah, happy to. Okay.
so
Happy to.
if you guys can get, if he wants to do June,
I'll follow up with Chris. I'll follow up with Chris and
Okay.
get you guys hooked up, and then I'll try to.
Yeah, I'll make it happen. I mean, somebody like him, I'll definitely make it happen. And if I gotta, you know, whatever, we'll make it happen, for sure. But all right, guys, I thank you again so much. Appreciate it, and I hope it is not the last time the four of us get together. Mark needs to make good on his promise. So that right there would justify another show, because he needs to come through. Members wanted to see that, and they're disappointed.
No, you have to pay for that. Come on.
So, but and thank you, Sifu Dwight. I know you weren't totally up to par. Appreciate it. You know?
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And
Great.
Guro Mahipal, appreciate it. Actually, Guro Mahipal's on this month.
Huh.
Those who are watching, yes, we're doing an episode with Guro Mahipal. So those who are interested in his immersion labs, what he's doing, and all the stuff that he's talked about here, we were getting him on. So there we go.
So I will let certain people know when you're coming on, so they can get to know more about you, and maybe that'll.
Yeah, I'm in Canada.
I'll keep working on it. I promise.
But and Guro Mark, try to stay out of trouble over there. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like getting in a fight. Really, I do. Yeah, I almost did the other day, actually. I ran into a racist confrontation, and
I read about that.
yeah, but whatever. And then I just made a rap. And then I made a rap song about it. So whatever.
Could you?
You have to endure that.
That was hysterical. Anybody's watching this, go to Mark Stewart's wall and see his rap. That was hilarious. That was just,
Yeah, it's called woke like. It's called woke like Coke.
That was good.
I don't know how you get away with this stuff. All right. Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
You guys take care. Mahipal, I'll be in touch. Okay.
Happy to.
All right.
All right. Okay. Bye, guys.
All right. Be good.